month of Kislev. It is Erev Shabbos Kodesh, and we are learning Maseches Pesachim Daf Ayin Amud Beis. We are all the way at the bottom of Daf Ayin Amud Aleph, where the Gemara is having a discussion trying to ascertain the opinion of Ben Tema with regards to Shviras Etzem of Korban Pesach. The Gemara has proven thus far that Ben Tema holds that the Korban Chagiga that is brought on Erev Pesach has most of, if not all of the dinim of the Korban Pesach that is brought. The Korban Chagiga is almost all of the dinim, if most, if not all of the dinim of the Korban Pesach. And now we're trying to figure out if that is also true about Shviras Etzem. And the Gemara introduced a brisa that told us that if you found a knife on the 14th day of the month of Nisan, you can use it immediately because you can assume that everybody was ready to shech the Korban Pesach, and therefore they toveled the knife. But if you found a meat cleaver, you cannot assume that was toveled because, and this is the Gemara's assertion, because this is the opinion of Ben Tema, and Ben Tema holds that a meat cleaver is not needed, not for the Korban Pesach, because there's an issur of breaking its bones, but also not for the Chagiga, because it is also to break its bones as well, that there's an issur of Shviras Etzem. And the Gemara then wanted to entertain the possibility, maybe, that this is not a conclusive proof, because the Rabbanan might also hold the same din in a case of, and this is where we're up to, Ella Sheba, turning over the page, Sheba Bimeruba, that we're talking about a case where there were too many people, or too few people that were registered on your Korban Pesach, and therefore, if there are too few people registered on the Korban Pesach, then you wouldn't bring the Korban Chagiga, as the Mishnah told us, and that would be the opinion of the Rabbanan as well. So the fellow that didn't tovel this meat cleaver is because he knows that there aren't enough people for him to be bringing the Chagiga as well. If that is so, says the Gemara, Mina Yade. So the guy that finds it, how does he know what the intention is of the guy that did or did not tovel the meat cleaver? Ela Shabbat Tuma. So says the Gemara, well, it cannot be about a case of Meruba. It must be in a case, in order to maintain that this still might be the opinion of the Rabbanan. So Ela Shabbat Tuma, that this is a case of Baba Tuma, where everybody's tummy. Rashi points out here, it means Shirayv Tzibur Tmeim, that the majority of the tzibur is going to be tummy. And Utnanan, we learned, Bizman Shebaba Tuma, in Mevinim Chagiga, that if everybody is tummy, you don't bring the Chagiga. However, the fellow that wants to bring the Chagiga, he himself is tahar. So he's allowed to bring a Chagiga. Everybody else is not allowed to bring a Chagiga. He is allowed to bring the Chagiga, and therefore he wants to. But the meat cleaver that he found is probably belonging to one of the majority of Klal Yisrael that is going to be bringing the Korban Pesach B'Tumah, and therefore he's not going to be bringing in a state of Tumah. He's not going to be bringing the Chagiga. Says the Gemara, well, okay, fine. But Sof, Mina Yade. At the end of the day, how do you know that the majority of people are going to be tummy? Meaning, the guy found it on the 14th. And we're asking the question, did somebody tovel it on the 13th? How does somebody know that they're going to be tummy? Says the Gemara, well, I'll tell you how the majority of the community would know that they're going to be tummy is the Meis Nasi, is somebody died that everybody has to attend the funeral of. And that would be the Nasi if the leader of the community died. So in such a situation, everybody's going to go and be tummy. Apparently, this fellow is not going to be tummy. He's not going to be tummy. Maybe he's a guy. Or maybe he was out of town and then he showed up the next day. Says Rashi, mitzvah l'chol yishal l'sasubah. It's mitzvah for everybody to show up for the Levaya. Says the Gemara, okay, well, let's figure out the calendar here. The Meis Nasi Emas. When exactly did the Nasi die? Also, if you say that he's going to die on the 13th, meaning he died on the 13th. So if that's true, so then the beginning of the brisa told us that the sakin, the knife that you found, you can use. Sakin lamalei de medavle. Why would you assume that he toveled the sakin? Because he's tamei, everybody else is tamei. So if everybody's tamei, they're all going to be bringing the Korban Pesach instead of tumah. Why would he need to tovel his knife? Everybody's tamei anyway. So why would you be able to use the knife that you found? Both the cleaver and the knife should be problematic. Ela de meis ba'arba. No, rather you say that he died on the 14th. So if that's true, Ma'ishna sakin de matpil, Ma'ishna kupitz de matpila. So if that's true, then what would be the difference between the knife that you assume that he toveled it and the kupitz that you assume that he didn't tovel it? Meaning, On the 13th, the day before, how would you have known whether the Nasi was going to die or not? You don't know that the Nasi was going to die. Says the Gemara, Lo tzricha. No, I'll tell you exactly what's going on here. You do need this case. The Nasi goises b'shlosh asa. The Nasi was about to die. He was a goises. He was on his deathbed on the 13th. Everybody was figuring out, is he going to die today? Is he going to die tomorrow? What's going on here? So you try to beat the rush. Sakin dechad sveika, the sakin, where you're not sure. Maybe I'll need to have a tovel. Maybe I will not have it. I'll not have to get a tovel. In such a case, sakin dechad sveika. I don't know. Maybe he's going to die. Maybe he's not. Maybe he lost another day. Who knows? Matbil la. You would go and tovel it. You're going to go and tovel it because you know that you might need it tomorrow. Maybe you'll go to the funeral, or maybe you're not going to go to the funeral. Kupitz, with regards to the mikli, with the tres veke, that now you have two suffix. What are the two suffix? Suffix number one is the Nasi going to die? And suffix number two is you still don't know how many people are going to be registering for your Korban Pesach. You don't know if you are going to need a chagiga or not, according to the Rabban. You don't know if you're going to need the chagiga. If you're going to have to bring the chagiga, depends on how many people are going to be registering for your Korban Pesach. You don't know yet. Lo matbila. So people aren't going to schlep out to immerse the sucking that they found. They're not going to dunk the sucking. They're not going to dunk the kupitz, the meat cleaver, because maybe everybody's going to be tamei anyway, and therefore you're not going to need it. And maybe you are also not going to have enough people in your Korban Pesach. So there's two reasons. And to that end, this brisa could well be the opinion of the Rabbanan that if you found the sucking on the 14th day of Nisan, you could use it, and if you found the meat cleaver, you cannot use it. That would be the case. Maybe everybody's going to be tummy, maybe they're not going to be tummy, and this might be the opinion of the Rabbanan, and therefore, Ben Tema's opinion here is inconclusive. We don't know if Ben Tema holds that Ve'etzem L'Shishbur applies to the Chagiga as well. Okay, next discussion. Tanya, we have a brisa as follows. Yehuda ben Durtai Pirish. There was a Jew by the name of Yehuda ben Durtai, who was one of the Chachamim, and he was Pirish. He separated himself from the rest of the Chachamim. Who? Him, V'Durtai Benai, and his son Durtai, meaning there's Durtai and Yehuda and Durtai. So apparently the older Durtai probably was Niftar at this point, but there was a Yehuda and a Durtai, his son. V'halach v'yashav le'bedarim, and he went and he settled in the south, all the way the south of the country. Why? Amari said, Im Yaveh Eliyahu, Eliyahu Navi will show up. V'yomer lahem l'Yisrael, and say to the Jewish people, Mipnei ma lo chagagtim chagig b'Shabbos. Why did you not bring the chagiga on Shabbos? Meaning, Erev Pesach shechales b'Shabbos. You brought the Korban Pesach. Why didn't you bring the chagiga? Mahim omrim lo. What would they say to him? T'mahani al shnei gedolei hadar. I am astounded by the two gedolei hadar. Says Yehuda ben Durtai. I'm astounded by the psak halacha of these two gedolim, Shemai v'Avtalion, the great Shemai and Avtalion, the Rabbeim of Hillel Hazakin. Shem Chachamim gedolim, they are the wisest, the greatest Talmid Chacham, the gedolei hadar. V'darshanim gedolim and v'darshanim gedolim, and they are great darshanim. They explain the Torah. That doesn't mean they give good drushes. It means that they derish the psukim correctly. And they didn't paskin that the Jewish people should know that Chagiga deichas Shabbos, that the Chagiga overrides Shabbos. Where's such a din come from? Nobody holds like this. Yehuda ben Durtai. So he doesn't. He said, "I'm leaving. I'm booking out of Yerushalayim because I don't want to be chayiv in Korban Pesach, and I don't want to be chayiv in Chagiga. I'm booking out." Now, this is machlokes, whether he went to the south of the country or even he left Eretz Yisrael. So it's not to be chayiv in Aliyah L'Regel, and that's a big machlokes that relates to the sugya at the beginning of Maseches Pesachim that we spoke about last year, Shabbos Haggadah, whether you are chayiv in Korban Pesach and chayiv in Aliyah L'Regel if you are outside of Eretz Yisrael. Or maybe he was just trying to make sure that he was better chayk and then he didn't bring the Korban Pesach. Either which way, he booked out of Yerushalayim so as to avoid the obligation of Pesach and Chagiga. He got himself out of it. Such a fascinating thing. Amar Rav says, "My time in the why is he booking out? Why is he leaving?" Because the pasuk says as follows: "V'zavachta Pesach la'Hashem lekechet tzanei bakar." Pasuk says in Sefer Dvarim that you will slaughter a Pesach to Hashem, your God, tzon, sheep, ubakar, and cattle. V'haloi ein Pesach ela min hakvasim u'min ha'izim. But the Korban Pesach only comes from the keves, from lamb, and from izim, from goats. So ela tzon, that means tzon. Ze Pesach. When the pasuk says tzayin, that means the Karban Pesach. Bakar, so where's Bakar in this whole thing? Where's cattle? Zu chagiga. That's a reference to the Karban chagiga. V'amar Rachman on the pasuk says v'zavachta Pesach, and you have to do it. Meaning that the same way that you shech the Karban Pesach, you have to shech the Karban chagiga, even if it is on a Shabbos. They're both derech Shabbos. Amar Rav Ashi says, "Vana time at Dirshu Neked. What? Neked v'nifresh. What? All of a sudden we're giving drushes of the people that disagreed with Shammai v'Avtalion. He was perished. He disagreed with the Gedolei Hadar. Now, this is a fascinating conversation here. Is a person not allowed to disagree with Shammai v'Avtalion? He was apparently a Talmud Chacham. He was Roy Lekach. Why is it that he didn't? That Rav Ashi is so disparaging of Yehuda ben Dutai? Apparently, he was a rogue darshan here. So the Tosfos really pushes and jumps through hoops here to explain what exactly was wrong with him maintaining this minority view. To explain exactly, and whether or not this was also the opinion of Ben Tema, because Ben Tema, we've spent the last Amud explaining that he was legitimate. Does Ben Tema also hold of this din? So there's a lot to speak about here. Take a look at the long Tosfos, my Talmud ben Dutai. Nevertheless, says the pasuk, apparently he was wrong, meaning Yehuda ben Dutai was wrong in separating from the Chacham of this, for maintaining the Shita. So it says, Rav Ashi says, let me teach you how the pasuk is supposed to be read. Elakra lichter Rav Nachman hu. The pasuk is explained like Rav Nachman explained. The Amar Rav Nachman taught us. Amar Rabba Bar Avua, in the name of Rabba Bar Avua. Minayin lemoiser Pesach she karev shlomim. How do you know that the leftovers of the Karban Pesach are brought to the shlom? That either means the leftovers, meaning a Karban Pesach that was lost and then found later on, is now used as a shlomim. Or if you dedicated money to be used for a Karban Pesach and the price of sheep went down and now you have leftover money. You bought the best sheep that you can. You still have leftover money from the money that you did for Karban Pesach. What do you do with that money? So that is used for a Karban Shlomim. Shenema, the pasuk says, "V'zavachta Pesach v'Hashem lekecha tzayin u'bakar." You have to bring a Pesach for Hashem, your God, tzayin u'bakar, sheep and cattle. V'chi Pesach min ha'bakar ba, and does the Karban Pesach come from cattle? Absolutely not. V'aloi en Pesach ba ela min ha'kvasim min ha'izim. It has to be from sheep or from goats. Ella says Rav Nachman, Moiser ha'Pesach. That which is left over from the Pesach is going to be brought from tzayin or bakar, meaning you can bring a shlomim that comes from tzayin, from sheep or from cattle. Good. Okay. According to the Rabbanan, why don't we hold separate from this pasuk? Why don't we hold that the chagiga is going to be derech Shabbos? Meaning, we're assuming that it's not going to be derech Shabbos. Havade karban tzibur. This is a karban tzibur. Now, there is a machlokes exactly what would define something as being derech Shabbos. We know that a karban tzibur is derech Shabbos, like an oila. The oila stomach is derech Shabbos, obviously, and the musaf is derech Shabbos, and the chatas that are brought on the Yom Tovim and on Rosh Chodesh. It's all derech Shabbos. What about a Karban of the Yachid? So Karban of the Yachid is not derech Shabbos. Is the operative, and this is machlokes in Maseches Yomi and Daf Nun, is the operative machlokes whether or not it is a Karban tzibur or a Karban that has a specific zman. And it's usually referred to as a Karban tzibur, with Pesach being the one exception. It is a Karban of a Yachid that is at a specific time. So that's machlokes. But okay. But Havadei Karban tzibur means that it for sure is at least something that has to be offered in that particular period of time. Amar Rabbi Ela Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Safra. Says Rabbi Ela Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Safra. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, why is it that we don't bring the Karban Chagiga on Shabbos? And you bring the Karban Pesach, you bring the Chag of Hashem for Hashem, Shivas Yom Mishana, 7 days in the year. Now this is talking about Sukkot. Sukkot every year is not 7 days. Sukkot is 8 days, including Shemini Atzeres. Says the Gemara as follows: Shiva, 7, Shmona Hava. There are 8 days of Sukkot. Ela mikan lechagiga she'ena derechas Shabbos. You learn from this explicitly that the Korban Chagiga, which is Chag LaHashem, Shivas Yamim, that you are going to be chogeg, you're going to celebrate this Chag, the Chagiga, for 7 days. So it means in every Sukkot, there are only 7 days that you can bring your Chagiga, which means that one of those days is Shabbos. Because in every 8 days, 1 day is going to be Shabbos. And the Pasuk is telling you that you can only bring the Chagiga for 7 days. That clearly tells you that you cannot bring the Chagiga on Shabbos. He also Ravin, when Ravin arrived from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Amar, he said, Amarti lifnei Rabbi, I said in front of my Rabbim, Pamim she'i atamoitze el shisha. There are days that you there are years that you only have 6 days. You only have 6 days to bring the Chagig. Go in Shechal, Yom Tov Rishon, Shechal b'Shabbos. Like when the first day of Yom Tov of Sukkot falls out on a Shabbos, then you would only have 6 days to be 2 Shabbos observances in this 8-day period. When the pasuk says that you should bring the Chag for Hashem Shivas Yamim, but what if there's 2 Shabboses? So Abaye apparently got very upset with this question. Amar Abaye said, Avin Tichla, Avin, the one that has lost his children, meaning Avin, who buried his children, Lema Ki Ha Milsa, you would say such a crazy thing? Now, it's a question exactly who he's referring to. The Chacham Shlomo is saying, would he be so disparaging of Rabbi Avin, who was a Talmid Chacham from much previous generations? So it must be that he was talking about a different Ravin, that it couldn't have been. It couldn't have been the Ravin that the Avin Tichla, the Rabbi Avin that had lost his children. It had to have been somebody else, that a different Avin that had suggested this thing. Meaning he's not saying Avin that lost his children. How could you say such a thing? This is talking about a different Rabbi Avin that was not the same Rabbi Avin that lost his children. He says, Ava Tichla, Lema Ki Ha Milsa. It couldn't have been that the Avin, that the Rabbi Avin, that meaning contracted to Ravin, would have said such a crazy thing. It must have been somebody else that said this. Because Shmona Le Mishkachas Klal, in 8 days you never find. The pasuk's never going to tell you that you're going to have 8 days without a Shabbos. Shiva is a Shanim, but yeah, it does work out that that's the majority of the years, meaning 6 times out of 7. That's what the pasuk is talking about. It's not talking about this once out of every 7-year case, roughly, that you're going to end up with 2 Shabboses. The pasuk is talking about the regular din, and therefore it's not even a question to begin with. And the next conversation, Amar Ula, Amar Belazar Shlomim Shachtem Erev Yamtiv Eina Yotzevim Lo Mishum Simcha Lo Mishum Chagiga. Be'ezras Hashem, we will continue on Shabbos Kodesh. Looking forward to seeing everybody in Shul, and those that are not able to make it for the shir on Shabbos afternoon. Be'ezras Hashem, we will catch up on Motzei Shabbos as well. Looking forward to it, and we will see everybody then. Have a beautiful Shabbos. Hashem Yisbarach, should be menucha, and all good things for us and for Klal Yisrael.